What's going on, guys? Back again with another video. So for this one, I'm gonna be giving you my thoughts on the heroic legend of Arslan, or Arslan Senki, as most of you probably know it. So fair warning. Like I said, I'm giving my thoughts. So this is no holds bar. I am going into spoilers. So if you have not seen the anime, please take the time to watch the anime, or if you don't care, keep watching. Either or, you've been warned. So Arslan Senki is a interesting anime. So to put it simply, like, its story is really good, or I shouldn't. Its story is done extremely well. I can't say it's really good because it's super simple, and but it's dragged down by terrible animations. So on the content of the work alone, I could probably give this. I mean, I might say like eight, possibly 9 out of 10. I mean, I have to go 8 just because it didn't really finish the story yet for the anime. So it's we're really into the introductory phases, or I mean, we're a little bit further than that, I guess. With season 2 and all that, but you get what I'm saying. Maybe a quarter way through the story, I'd imagine. I don't know. Like, there's novels. I don't know how much is covered. From the vibe I get is about 30% through the story, and if the story is what makes it the show great, which is what I believe, then the animations just drags it down like a rock. It is like a terrible girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, like it's just really bad. Like it just, it's like a big weight on the back of the show. It's like you see all the potential and with the story and the way the characters interact, and then just the animations just really drop it down. Like for example, I think okay, like here, when you see the characters talking to each other, regardless of the moment, it's like the hair doesn't move, the facial expression doesn't move, so everything's really stationary. It just looks like a moving manga. And a big example of that is when Queen Tahamine was screaming at the king Andragoras, and he's like, "Oh," she's like, "Where's my son? I haven't seen my son." And in the anime, like, it just looked flat. Like, it fell flat. Like, I was like, oh, she doesn't seem very angry about that. It's almost like a light question, but then in the manga, it was like she was losing it. So if this is anime version, "Where's my son? I haven't seen my son." This is manga version, "Where's my son? I haven't seen my son. Where is he? You're hiding him from me." Like, and you can feel the emotion of how a mother would feel if she was separated from her child. So and the animations, that's not the only thing that the animations hurt. It's like the large scale war scenes. It just looks like some random iPhone game. Like, it's just CGI. You just kind of, it just doesn't look very good at all. And so, like, they'll do like sky shots, sky views of to show you just the scope of the military. And man, it's kind of cool, just in terms of, in terms of understanding, to see where Arslan came from and to see how much, like, everything kind of grew. But even then, like, just the animations was just so bad that it just didn't do the part justice. And then the battle scenes, when they're having battles out on land and in scales, like, it just, the animation, it's just like this huge shackle holding the show back. Like, it's really unbelievable. I mean, like, it's not normal. Like, I mean, it's bad. Like, this is pretty bad, I guess. Because you can go back and look at the older OVAs. Now, I didn't watch too much of them, but when I go back and look at it, and I'm like, wow, like, this looks better. Like, you can see the hair moving, the facial expressions, the face is moving and stuff like that. Like, it just looks very human and natural. And you can see more emotions, and then the fight scenes look cool and interesting. From the little that I saw, honestly, like, don't quote me on that. One day I'm gonna watch it, and I'll probably come back with a review of that too, also. So, but from the little that I saw, I could say it was light years ahead of this one. And also another thing with the animations, the characters are just too clean cut. Like the way they draw them out, it's just too crisp, too clean. I mean, that's a problem with a lot of newer animes these days. But like, it's just not my thing, Like, because see, that leads us to another one of the strengths of the show is that I feel like they crafted very good characters. I mean, we didn't get too deep into them, but as far as their interactions with each other and how they are and how they are and how unique they are as individuals, like I think they did a good job. But when you look at them, they just look like copy and paste characters from any rich random show. Well, I mean, in particular, even Full Metal Alchemist, which is another issue because like the drawings, the character designs just look too Full Metal-y. Like, and now I know that the person who designed the show also did Full Metal Alchemist, but like, can we just I just don't like the idea of watching an anime and I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the characters and it's like, oh, that's like this guy looks like Soft J Kimberly, like Daryun, we're looking at you, or this guy looks like Edward Elric, Arslan, of course. So yeah, that was kind of annoying. So, but I will say that during the one-on-one fights, I mean, the animations finally took off, and like in those moments it really got special, actually, which was just shocking. Like, it would just throw me off because I mean, you'd see just pure garbage for a good 13 minutes of the show, and then all of a sudden in comes Lord Silvermask and here comes Daryun, and now they're just duking it out, and it's like, wow, like it looks good. Like, I mean, they actually put some money. I mean, the budget went up for those, like, for those fights, just saying it. So like, those were moments where I'd actually say not only was it good, it was actually exceptional, but just no consistency as far as carrying it out through the rest of the anime. Okay, this story really just gives you a simple hero's journey. Not bad, but it's super simple. Like you can really just summarize it into this. Okay, you got naive prince. He thinks everything's all good. Behind his walls, boom, there's a war. His whole world is shattered. Mom, parents in trouble. He runs off with his protector, Daryun, and then they go meet up with Narsus, his mentor, and his mentor is gonna, guides him into the perils of the world that he did not know, and kind of helps mold him into the getting the right decisions. Although he was always kind of on the right track, so I guess that's one switch. He didn't really need that much molding. Arslan kind of always made the right decision. But one thing that I like is that in one of those moments one of the things when he was learning about slavery with Narsus and through his travels, instead of them looking at it like, oh yeah, we just free the slaves and it's gonna be all good, they showed it in a way that, hey, look, it's not as simple as just freeing the slaves. Like, this is all these guys have known. It's more than just freeing the slaves. You can't just free those slaves. You have to guide those slaves. Like, you have to help reestablish them back into life. They don't even understand, and just the difficulty of breaking those shackles. Like, those slaves are bound by both physical and mental shackles, and so they kind of get into that, which was really good. I thought, which is another big strength of the story is just the themes that they tackle. But I don't want to get too sidetracked. I'll probably get back to that later. And so yeah, like, and then he meets up with Lord Silvermask, and he finds out that his origin birth is messed up, and the king might not even be his father. And now he's in the real unknown, and this is the abyss. But instead, like, so he's debating, do I want this, and should I give it to Hilmes? Because it's nature. He's a nice guy. So Arslan's kind of thinking like, well, it's the right thing to do. And then he gets his resolve, with the help and guidance of Narsus and Daryun, and just through some crazy situations and inspirations. I guess talking to Estelle too, or Etoile, as we all know. Her, obviously it's her, it's not him, it's her, but yeah. So he goes out there, and now he's got his resolve, and he is determined to go take the kingdom, even though if he has to regardless if he has to usurp the throne. I think even at the end of the second season, he's to a point where he's willing to even get in his own father's way. So basically, yeah, simple hero's journey. This is what we got. But so normally I might say something like this is boring, lame, cliche. But honestly, I think it's almost Avatar-esque in terms of, yeah, it's simple. Yeah, I've seen it 1,000 times over. But the way they did it it helped it be efficient. It helped them have a super efficient story. And that when I say efficient, I mean that in terms of like the goal is understood. Because I mean, from Jump Street, they tell you, hey, look, this is the story. This is how the young boy became a king and a legend. So off rip, you already know that he's going to become the king. So he's going to win, and on top of that, he's going to be big time and a legend. So you know that. So this is like, that's My Hero Academia. So it's not even a debate. So there's no suspense, or no suspense there. We know the ending. By doing this, since we've seen the hero's journeys like 1,000 times over, they can really focus just on the characters, and they do that like in terms of. So if you've seen the show, you're probably like, focus on the characters. We don't know anything about the characters. So when I say focus on the characters, I'm talking about more so their interactions between each other and the time that they spend together, like those downtimes. So by having such a simple hero's journey story, we know all the beats. So it kind of helped them say, okay, why don't we take a little extra time on the side and just expound more on how Alfred's going to interact with Narsus and how they joke around, or Alfred and Elam, how they're kind of, flirting or whatever. Well, not necessarily flirting, but, I'm picking up the vibes. Or Falangies and Gieve, like how their relationship kind of evolves from her being annoyed by him into, and even then, that's a simple one. Literally, a lot of what they do in there is just super simple, but they just do it really well. But yeah, like, so, how she's warming up to Gieve after he's working so hard to get with her. And then, like Daryun and Narsus, how they just kind of go back and forth in their little banter. I mean, we're talking like, it's at least, what, 5, 6, shoot. I don't know off the top of my head, 5, like 7 or 8 main characters. So we're talking RPG type numbers right here. So generally speaking, normally, like with most shows, they focus on maybe 2-3 characters, and then everyone gets like 2-3 character interactions, and then all the other characters get left on the wayside, and they use that time for the other that could have been spent on other characters to kind of flesh out the backstory of a 2 or 3 characters. You get what I'm saying? But in this one, I guess they just said they scrapped that. They said, no, we're not going to really do a backstory. Maybe they would do that in the future. Like I said, we're probably a third way through in the story, and they're probably thinking like, okay, we're gonna flesh out their backstories in the future. But right now, we're just gonna focus on how they interact with each other. And honestly, me personally, I love that. I'm sure a lot of people didn't like it, but to me, I like that a lot because it was just entertaining to watch, to see how they go. One thing that Arslan Senki does great is their antagonists, right? They wrote, to me, pretty good antagonists. Borderline great, but I don't know where the story is going to go, so we're just going to call them good for now. So despite the story being so simple, right? Like, we're talking ABC hero's journey. So you would think 9 times out of 10 in the ABCD, hero's journey, you're just going to get like, you're just wholly, purely evil villain that you have to take down. See, no, they don't do that. So I'd say the best example of this is Hilmes, or Lord Silvermask. So basically, when he comes in, he just seems like pure evil, and you're just like, bro, like, this guy's just annoying. Like, he's just he just seems maniacal. He's causing chaos. He's very Joker-esque. He's a double agent. He's hanging out with these guys in the shadows. And you just look at him like, man, this guy is really annoying. Like, he's just a bad dude. Like, he just seems this one just big ball of evil. But as the story progresses, you get into his backstory, and it's like, oh, you see that Arslan's father killed his father, and then now on top of killing his father, took his father's wife and went and attempted to kill Hilmes just so he can make sure he can get the throne. So just that alone is kind of crazy, right? And you see that's like, dang. And then the way they showed those scenes where you kind of see Hilmes' childhood, because we seen Arslan's childhood, right? Like, we seen him as a kid. We seen him training with Vazar or whatever his name is. It's leaving my mind, and we seen it. You know, you seen that, and then they flip the story, they flip the script on his head, and they show Hilmi's doing that same thing that Arslan was doing as a kid in the kingdom, and it's like, dang. And you kind of see, no wonder this dude's so angry. Like, my man's took everything from him. So, like, definitely. So that definitely added a bit of justification to his cause. And then on top of that, you kind of see him where, yeah, you know, I mean, obviously this is like medieval, they're fighting war, so everybody's killing on demand. Like, you know, like you're gonna get killed for $1. They just killing people for free. Like, it ain't really nothing to them in here. But you know, when he kills, it just seems especially bad. Like, they showed him killing certain people, it'd be like, man, why is he doing that? Like, you know. But then at the end of the day, as time goes on, you start realizing he's really not that crazy. So he doesn't really kill people unnecessarily, like only if you get in his way. And then on top of that, you see that he had a level of compassion for the Princess of Mariam. You know, there was that situation where, you know, he risked his own life to go save her. And then yeah, like, it was just a variety of situations where you kind of see him and you can understand where he's coming from. And in many ways, he's really only the bad guy because he's not the main character. So, like, he's almost like a perfect antagonist, you know. So, but then another character that I don't know if he's the antagonist, but he comes off as very antagonistic. Is Arslan's father, King Andragoras. So with King Andragoras, he just comes off like a bully. You know, he seems to be self-centered, and he's just all about, you know, just charging in, you know, projecting strength. So and then he disrespects Arslan, whatever. You know, after Arslan worked so hard to, you know, hold the fort while he was, you know, in captivity, and he just kind of comes and push Arslan out and just give him some impossible task that I guess he knows he can't do, so he can take his throne without challenge. But yeah, but when you see his character, so you'd get like a skewed view of him. But when you really look into it, if you notice, you know, he really cares for Queen Tahamine. You know, maybe he's got a weird way of showing it, but he definitely cares for her. Even though he's indifferent towards Arslan a lot, he raises him as a son in a way. You know, they got a touch and go relationship, but he cares in a way. It's not totally garbage. The way he listens to his advisors, and then you might say, oh, well, he's just a bully, but in a way, like, during this time, he has to show strength, and you can see that's a universal mentality, because every time they look at Arslan showing so much kindness, they go, well, can this last? That strength is what helps the other men follow him, and you can see that strength has led to great success, because you see the peace and parts and this affluent wealth and where it is, and hey, look, it was so good that it kept his son very naive for many years until it went bad. And it went bad because, you know, there was weakness and foolishness and a variety of reasons. But yeah, so that one, you know, you could understand. So he didn't come off as just purely just negative. There were some positive aspects, and then also there seems to be more depth into the story of why he killed his brother. If he killed his brother, I'm not so sold on that yet. Maybe, you know, maybe there's more to the story. But yeah, and so now I'm gonna get into another one of the more interesting parts of the show, and that is the dichotomy between Arslan and Hilmi's. So, I mean, basically, these guys are just polar opposites in every way, shape, and form. Honestly, like, okay, so, you know, Hilmi's, you know, former prince, you know, fallen from the throne, loses everything. Everything was taken from him. Attempted murder on his life. Arslan, you know, his childhood, you know, he finds out he's a prince, gets moved to the capital, gets all the training, you know, relatively happy childhood, crazy naive. So he doesn't know the darkness of the world too soon, like Hilmi's did. Hilmi's is a legitimate heir to the throne, whereas Arslan might not even be Andragoras' son, and even if he is his son, Andragoras was second, like he was the brother, so he's already superseded by Hilmi. So no matter what, he has no claim. Arslan has no rightful claim to the throne. And then also by virtue of being the actual heir to the throne, like not only does Hilmis have a birthright to the throne, but honestly, like his backstory is a lot more like in a way, like his motivation is a lot more justified than any other character, and that like he wants to just destroy the people that destroyed his life. Like honestly, it's almost like, look, he needs justice. Like, how can these people prosper while his father was killed? Don't know what happened to his mother. I believe. I'm not sure if his mother's Lady Tahimine. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I'm not sure. But yeah, like it's just totally destruction. Like he was permanently scarred. He lost everything. All the people he loved was kicked out of his kingdom. Left to fend for himself, just in the middle of nowhere. And then, and then Arslan enjoyed everything that he was supposed to have, and you maybe say, "Oh, that's childish," but it's not even that he was supposed to have it. It's just like it's one thing to lose everything you're supposed to have, but to be just cast aside, distant, and left for dead, and just there to be forgotten and maimed. That's just a different type of animal. And then to see the people just prosper the way they were in Pars, the king in them. Whereas with Arslan, he doesn't really have a righteous claim to the throne, like, or even like obviously his cause is righteous, and his cause is even like, yeah, his cause is definitely righteous. I don't want to say it's more righteous than Ilmi's, because like it's just right, but his Arslan's cause is definitely more altruistic than Hilmi's, and so while his motivations may be altruistic, but by virtue of going for the throne, he is usurping it by definition. So he does not have he's basically a thief at this point. So yeah, that's another one. Hilmis is a powerful warrior, singular in his ambitions, whereas Arslan isn't much of a warrior, and he's very indecisive. So he's just not sure about how to move forward. Although, through the hero's journey, he's found his resolve, and he's moving forward as he sees fit. But yeah, and then another difference between them, stark difference, is kind of similar to Sasuke and Naruto in terms of where Hilmi's, in a way, I don't want to say it's similar to Sasuke and Naruto because Sasuke isolated himself by choice. So in a way, Hilmi's was forced into isolation. And in isolation, like his anger consumed him, and it's almost like a wall around other people. And so he's just essentially alone. Like just everybody who cared for him, everybody who knew about his existence, like he's just alone and he's forgotten, and like no one gives a damn about him. So there's that. And then when you contrast that to, like, let's say an Arslan, whereas Arslan, like, since the day he was born, he's been around people. He's had friends. He's been able to meet people. He's communicating. He's always been accepted. Like, literally, like, if you look at it, like, life has been handed on a silver platter to Arslan in a really big way, whereas Hilmis has had to just scrape and claw. So the cool thing that they do with the two of them that I like is, like, the backgrounds. Like, normally Hilmis would be the protagonist, and then Arslan is the antagonist or the bad guy. But this time they flipped it over his head, where they said, look, the villain's going to be the one with zero privilege, and the protagonist is going to have all the privilege. And so you see Arslan wrestling with that guilt, like, wow, like, how could you go through this? But this is where he finds his resolve. So that I thought that was really interesting, and that was some pretty good writing right there. And yeah, it's gonna be cool to see how they play that out in the future. And so really, those are my 2 or 3 biggest takeaways in terms of so basically, animations were terrible, dragged the show down. Simplicity of the story made it really efficient. Just it was, and then they were able to do some cool tweaks. They kept standard simple hero's journey with some nice little tweaks. And how they approach the protagonist, antagonist, and then just the probably one of the bigger takeaways, like I said earlier, is the dichotomy between Arslan and Lord Silvermask. But so I mean, the show is really a mixed bag. You know, like I said, the greatest strength is the story, and like the animation just kind of was just this huge brick of whatever you want to make a brick out of, just weighing it down. But so like, you know, I get into some, you know, some other good and bad things, you know, but honestly there's probably more good than bad to me, but just the bad just really stood out. It was really strong. So I'll start with, you know, I'll go through some of the bad stuff. So I'm gonna go through some of the bad stuff that I haven't already covered. If I repeat any, forgive me. You know, I'm kind of going off the top of my head. So here goes. So one of the biggest bad things outside of the animation would have to be they were never really challenged. Like Arslan and his gang. Like it was just kind of annoying in a way. Like, you know, all these things would happen. You know, they kind of take you into this world where it doesn't seem, you know, it seems, you know, not too PG-13. I mean, I think the show is PG-13, but, you know, it gives vibe that, hey, look, this can go into, that they're willing to take it into darker areas. They're handling very serious topics, you know, like slavery, religion, you know, and whatever, nepotism, just a bunch of topics, a wide range of ideas. And for whatever reason, they refuse to put any of the characters in any meaningful danger. So that was kind of, I'd say, a negative, because then eventually, once you start realizing, you know, they got all these get out of jail free cards, you know, you're less scared for the characters, and then it kind of makes you less invested in the big moments that are supposed to be dangerous. Another annoying thing is the way these guys followed, like, anybody who's a part of the royal family. Like, it was seriously annoying. I'm like, look, like it almost felt like the royal, like saying that you're a part of a royal family was in a way a plot device, because instead of showing how the leader would earn the individual's, you know, trust, they just kind of said, well, I'm of the king's blood, you know, of some Andragoras or whoever the fifth, and follow me, and they would just follow. Like, it was just stupid to me. Now, I mean, I guess you might say, well, Arslan, you know, he was, you know, showed the content of his character, or maybe the strength of Andragoras. But my thing is like, well, in Arslan's case, like, yeah, his character definitely built a deeper loyalty, but Daryun was already following him from Jump Street. Like, the second his dad said, oh, you know, always follow Arslan, you know, regardless, not the family, Arslan. He's like, yeah, okay. And he does that. Narsus has like one meeting with the kid, and then, like, you know, he's kind of almost all in at that point. Like, you know, Gieve, like, just everybody just kind of just, well, let me not use Gieve. Let me use like, you know, like some of the Mars Bond. Like, why should you follow a kid if he hasn't, like, just, it shouldn't be enough that he's royalty, that there should be some type of strength behind it, that he should earn their respect. Like, yes, the royalty would say, okay, yeah, we'll follow you, but beyond that, hey, look, Arslan, like, show me something. And that's what I should expect. Like, maybe, you know, like a duel, maybe not a duel, like just something, anything. I don't know what it would be, because obviously he's not a fighter and he's young, but it seemed a little too easy for people to follow him. And I get it, medieval times, whoever's got the blood of the king, we're gonna follow. But I felt like they could have it felt a little too much like a plot device, instead of just actually fleshing it out through the story, fleshing out how they would totally follow Arslan. But yeah. Also, another thing is Narsus is just overpowered, man. Like, he is the biggest cheat code in the show. Like, there was nothing that would happen that Narsus couldn't solve. Like, to me, it was a little bit ridiculous sometimes. That I just felt like, hey, look, you know, why don't you throw someone on the other side who could, outmaneuver Narsus? Like, they should be taking losses here and there. But it was just like, no matter what happens, Narsus had a plan and it would work out 100%. So it just, like, the guy was a game shark. I mean, I don't know, like, and if you don't know what a game shark is, then like, he was a cheat code, man. Like, it was too easy. Just, they definitely should have tempered his maneuvering ability down, or at least put someone on the other end that could match his wit. But yeah, it didn't drag. I wouldn't say that was too much of a killer, but it was definitely kind of annoying after a while. It was really weird to me that when Arslan decided to end slavery, nobody raised an army against him. Like, it seems to me like, hey, look, if a lot of people are making money, with slavery, a lot of and they've been doing it for years, and clearly nobody was complaining. Like, why wouldn't someone say, hey, look, no, we're gonna get this army and we're not gonna let you because it's just too profitable. Like, that's another one of those things. Like, someone should have raised an army. Like, I get it. Oh, he's king's blood, yada yada. Maybe they're scared. They're not gonna raise an army against him. They love the royal family and blah blah blah. But that like, to me, that doesn't add up, right? Like, because generally speaking, like, even though you're a king, like, you're a king by consent. It's like when Julius Caesar did the thumbs up, thumbs down. Like, he's like, yo, like, he tried to, I forgot whatever he was trying to do, but I think he tried to do a thumbs up on it. Everybody booed, and he put that boy back down, because you understand, like, this is by consent. So when he says, look, I want to throw away slavery, like, look, you shouldn't even be able to say that publicly. Like, really, he should have been doing it in the shadows and, vying for power, jockeying for power. And once he gets absolute power and builds enough connections, then he comes out loud and says, hey, look, I'm going to end slavery. So I felt like that was kind of a plot hole for me personally. But I'm sure someone might say, well, oh, what about Narcissus' friend? He raised an army and he was a traitor, but he was a businessman. But to me, that wasn't he was just doing it for himself, and the army that he raised, it really wasn't to stop the king from stopping the slavery. It was just more like stopping the king from taking over his territory. So it was two different things. But but yeah. That wasn't too horrible an issue, but it was just kind of like annoying. But I mean, I'd say the last thing, which is I didn't have a huge complaint about, but it was definitely kind of annoying because sometimes I got confused. Is just the crazy transitions, man. Like, sometimes it would transition so fast, I'd be like, yo, what happened? And it just be on a whole new topic. So, like, I'd finish an episode, and then the next episode they're in a whole new spot. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? So yeah, they definitely could have been a lot more smarter about how they did those transitions. So getting more towards some of the good things about the show that I haven't already talked about. One of the things I liked that they did a lot was that instead of treating Arslan's kindness like some holy good, perfectly, unassailable thing, they really acknowledge it to be a double-edged sword, and that, well, yeah, like that kindness can change the kingdom and it'll do good for a lot of people, and like freeing the slaves and stuff like that. But that kindness is also, in a way, a form of weakness, and it shows up in a variety of occasions, almost in a way like foreshadowing that maybe he has to change in the future. Like when he let Jaswant go, but then Jaswant came and got in their way from finishing the battle. Obviously, it turned out Jaswant ended up working with him in the future, but just saying, that was one way that his kindness was kind of like, whoa, that got in the way. Or and it's just always harked on, so you can tell it seems like there's a bit of foreshadowing that maybe he's gonna have to go dark in the future. So we'll see. But yeah, I like that they treated that like a double-edged sword and not just like, oh man, this is the right thing to do. A couple other good things is that the show approaches dogmatic ideas like religion. It also approaches slavery and war in very mature ways, and probably it tackled it better than anime I'd ever seen do it. Especially the religion part. Usually that's not really touched in anime. I mean, I guess the next best competitor might be Full Metal. Well, maybe Full Metal might be better. And when I say Full Metal, I'm talking about the 2003 Full Metal. You know what? The 2003 Full Metal actually did it better. Take it back. Except I think this one did it much better with the dogma of religion, and Full Metal didn't really get too into slavery. But just to be approach tough ideas in the same breath as a show like Full Metal 03, even though 03 gets a lot of flack nowadays thanks to Brotherhood, but we all know it was a classic back then. That's impressive in and of itself. And then the show's approach to relationships. So like Arslan Senki is really unique in a way that they don't do the usual, like, when you usually see in an anime, it's just like the relationships start from jump street, like boom, and they're all into each other, and it's like, oh my god, I love you, you did this one thing and I can never forget that, you gave me this gift, you saved my life, whatever, blah blah. It just flows a lot more naturally. It's like, there wasn't necessarily like a big event, but as the characters were around each other and it got more comfortable, you can see the relationships build. It felt more real. I would have to say the best example for this would have been Arslan and Etoile, because it's like when they initially met, you thought, okay, they brought Etoile in the beginning of the story, so you thought that was gonna be his bro, and that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna do their thing. Maybe they're gonna reunite someday in the future. So that was the kind of vibe. Then you get to the future, they reunite. They're on opposite ends, and Etoile's apparently a girl, Estelle. But they're on opposite ends on the faction. So maybe you're thinking, okay, maybe that relationship's over. Maybe they're gonna kill each other. But who knows? But now it's a girl. And then they have this slow burn where they randomly meet up at times by happenstance, and then it's like oh, I see what they're doing here. And it's not like the whole usual anime, like, oh my god, oh, I secretly like you. No, it's like you can kind of tell, like, they're both feeding off each other. They're both an addition to each other. Where normally it's like a one-way thing, like one person's so great and then the other person's just so infatuated and finally they link up. Whereas this one, it's like, it's just more real. It's the real definition of a mutual attraction, and it's not based on some bullshit. It's just, the contents of their character. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely what's up. And then another thing that probably really saved the show, I mean, due to its bad animations, I think probably this what really saved it is that they didn't put emphasis on the battles. Like, the battles really were not long and drawn out. I think a great comparison would be Kingdom. So whereas Kingdom, like, they put so much emphasis on the battles, and I didn't watch the Kingdom anime. I mainly read the manga, and so this is tomatoes. But as far as I can tell, where Kingdom put so much emphasis on the battles, and then the in-between stuff, the politics, which was probably my favorite parts, was just so much shorter in comparison. I mean, it might have been like 70% battles, 20-30% politics, but for me, the politics was the best part, and the battles was just the most boring part. And yeah, and it was just too shonen-y, the battles. So flipping it over its head, looking at Arslan, well, for one, the battles weren't shonen-y. It wasn't like, my will stomps out all. It was actually very strategic, even though Arslan's group always won. They always had the best strategists, but that was definitely cool. And thanks to the bad CGI, maybe it would have been better if I would have read the manga. I probably would have been more interested in it. But with the bad CGI, the battles were just boring. But they definitely counteracted this by just making it a smaller part of the show. So the show was more 70-30, 70% politics, 30% battles, which is, to me, was perfect for me, because the politics in Arslan was just great. So they definitely did a good job with that. So I would definitely say, yeah, that's a pretty good strength that I liked about it. So yeah, I mean, that's the good, the bad, and my big takeaways of the show. The last thing I'd like to just talk about would be the standout characters. So I'd say there's three characters that were the backbone of the show, and obviously Arslan. I think he was probably the best character out of the ragtag group. Just watching his maturation from a naive prince into a well, not even just naive, just a naive, waffling, indecisive, just yeah, just kind of in many ways. I don't like to say weak, but just seriously indecisive to a more determined, ambitious, uh, level-headed, and learned, like someone who kind of has a greater understanding of the world around him person. Like just to see him be that type of character was definitely a, a good watch. It was a nice transition, good to see, and it was just cool. They did it very well. They wrote it very well, and I liked it. Then the next character I'd have to get into is Estelle or Etoile. Man, like awesome character, awesome. Just seeing her start from just like this narrow-minded, dogmatic in her beliefs, like just religion, and then just seeing when she really has to, get her first kill in war, and you see the hesitation, and you see the deep contradictions in her own character, where her as a person is like super compassionate, but her religion is pretty insensitive to just allowing other people to exist outside the confines of her religion. So that was definitely cool. And just the time that she spent with Arslan, like, I mean, those scenes are probably the best scenes in the show, honestly, that just really set it off. So yeah, definitely a special character. And then just kind of see her melt, like see the ice melt off of like her tough exterior, and just kind of see her character soften up. That was dope. Then last but not least, Lord Silvermask. I mean, this guy was definitely the best character in the show. Like, couldn't write him up any better. I mean, he comes into the show, he starts out just pure evil, and then you get his backstory. You see, oh man, like you see just how he got messed up, and then you see how he treats his former subjects from his past life. Like when he kills his master, the guy who trained him with the sword, he killed him by accident because he jumped in front of Arslan, which really didn't make sense, but whatever. Like, it's like, why would you protect Arslan over the kid that you trained? But he kills him, and then as he does that, you can see like, why did you do that? You can see he cares. You can see that deep between all that hatred, there's this compassion that's there and just this love, but he's just blinded by his anger, and it's kind of consuming him. And then the time he spends with the Princess of Mariam, like, oh man, like once again, those are special episodes too, just like Arslan and Etoile's. I mean, they really write these relationships dope, and just the man, it was special, man. Like that, like he's a special character. I could probably make a whole video on him. Maybe I will. You just stay tuned. In the future, there might be a video on him. And then I got to give out an honorable mention. I wouldn't say he was like a standout. This guy was a standout character, but he was cool. I'd say that one, the Bowden, the religious fanatic, like he was interesting because he really wasn't like his actions were clearly evil and messed up, but all he really was just an overly religious person. Like he was the embodiment of somebody who's so dogmatic in their belief that, like, this is what they'll become. It's just totally psychotic in their approach. Like, just he doesn't think, he cares for nothing. He's willing to destroy the world, and it just doesn't matter because it's in the good book. And so that's what kind of messes with his character. So yeah, that's an honorable mention. But yeah, so that's everything, and I'll get back to y'all with another video. All right, deuces.